to call the meeting at 7:40. And first we will do a roll call, a voice roll call, please.
Al Born here.
Eric Cabrera here.
Jerry Good here.
Tony Perry here.
David Mijares here.
Rusty Neal here.
Arden Weatherford here.
And I'll note John Gamelke has not joined us yet. All right, pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I do have a couple of additions, deletions, corrections to agenda. We do have an issue that Nicole at the city is going to correct for us with respect to the agenda and how it's posted. But under the consent agenda, the minutes of January 9th are accurate, but the minutes for February were the 6th, not the 13th. Also, the minutes are in this packet, but we're proposing that you actually take them with you and then it'll be included in the packet in April as well, so you have time to review them. Part of the problem is that the January 9th minutes I attempted to do, and the February 6th minutes Mr. Neal did, and I think the board should scrutinize them heartily because I stink at doing minutes. I will admit to that. So anyway, so they are in the packet. They'll be included in the April packet. But just wanted to make sure you were aware of that. Okay. Any public comment for items not on the agenda?
Mr. Perry, let's go back one item on the minutes.
Mhm.
I found a couple of typographical errors. Do we
Yeah.
want to address that now or?
No.
No, okay.
No, well, you know what? That's not bad because that'll help us get in front of the ones we present in April. Sure, Mr. Bourne, please.
On the January 9th,
Mhm,
on page 3, item number 5, public comment,
mhm,
line 13,
mhm.
there on the right-hand side, we've got a typo, probably should be Mr. Neal, not
Yes.
N-A-L.
Mr. Now. Got it.
Now, then on page 5, the second paragraph, it starts out as Mr. Cabrera stated he fired. Probably not the right word there.
Okay, what page again? Page 5. second
On the
line.
first line.
Retired. A little bit different, Eric. Sorry.
Yeah,
about
you're fired. Okay. Yeah.
that. He retired. Okay, anything else you catch?
That's all that I have at this point. Yeah.
And of course, they were the ones I did. Thank
Yeah.
you. Appreciate that. I am fired from doing minutes. How about that? All right.
Chair, and if anybody, as you're reviewing them, when you take it home, if you see something in the minutes that I did, just send me an email or a text or anything and I'll make the appropriate correction.
And vice versa. Send, if it's the January minutes, send them to me. I'll correct,
Okay.
just like the ones you just gave us. And if they're the February minutes, please get them to Mr. Neal and he will correct them. Then we'll have the corrected versions in the packet for April. How about that?
Okay.
So, yeah, I always had a great appreciation for persons who did minutes, but it's even more so after you struggle through it, especially look, trying to do it from the video. It's pretty difficult. So, again, public comment items not on the agenda. I saw no one out there wanting to chat, so we will move on. Unfinished business, I believe there's none. So we will start with Mr. Weaver and the TAVA update.
Morning, everybody.
Just a quick update. So we are in the throes of wrapping up the preliminary plat. So it was approved by Planning Commission and City Council is unanimous. But there were 2 or 3 items that needed to be tweaked and buttoned up. And so that's what we're in the process of doing. Should wrap it up in the next week. And then it'll proceed to final plat. Back through that process of going through Planning Commission, City Council. I'm trying to think. There's gonna be, we understand there's gonna be a vote about the COG. Chair Perry, I know you'll cover all that, but that's gonna be Thursday night at City Council. And we're interested about that because it affects timing of removal of the COG car. And I think that's it. Derek, is there anything else that? And you're gonna see the design for the building this morning. So that's the other thing that we bring to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's right now, if you're ready to
That's
go.
right now. Yeah, Chair Perry, how do you want to do this? Do you want Ryan to present about this? Do you want-
It's really up to you. So I'll frame it really quick. So Tava is at the juncture where they want to present their designs, their renderings, because they're ready to break ground here in a few months. And I'd like to remind, it'll be part of our discussion, but I think let's listen to your presentation first, and then the board can discuss the DDA board has a duty to have a design review committee. In the past, it has been comprised of 2 persons. Since I became chair, I've been advocating that the entire board be the design review committee versus just 2 persons. Everything we've done has been in the sunlight, so this is no different. We do have a responsibility to approve the design from Tava and then push that on through the process to Planning Commission or to the Planning Department. I think it's the Planning Department at that juncture. And so we've started gathering, trying to get a handle on making sure, because if you look in the DDA files, it's not very organized in terms of understanding what are the most recent design review guidelines. We think we know, but we're going to try to clarify that with city planning and the DDA attorney before we discuss that at length. And so there are design guidelines for the Woodland Station overview, which does allow some latitude to this board if necessary. I don't know that that's going to be required with this project based on what I've seen, but we can discuss the design further, but I think let's jump into the fun stuff.
Sure.
Oh, hold on.
Sorry. I'd just like to comment about the whole board being the design review, and in that regards that there probably require more meetings and stuff. And it's harder to do that when you can only have 2 board members at a time talking. So the way we had kind of figured it in the past was you'd have 2 representatives that would then bring it back to the entire board. And it just might be something you should consider.
Yeah, it's and I definitely understand how it operated in the past. It's my understanding that what they're going to be bringing forth is compliant with city planning and city design and guidelines, as far as I know. If there is something that is specific to Woodland Station, I still believe we could discuss it here. I don't think it's going to be a similar process to the past.
Yeah, I just, you might find it that you need more conference, not always in a meeting as such.
Again, my position as chair is everything can be done out in the open. And
I'm not saying it shouldn't be, but
yeah.
I'm just saying that for convenience and practicality, you might, have a couple of people that are the contact with them is all.
Well, I'll take that under advisement, and if something emerges, we can address it at that time. but I do not anticipate that. Okay, Mr. Ryan Lloyd, correct?
Correct. Yes, Ryan Lloyd with Echo Architecture. As I think most of you know, we've been working on this project for quite a few years now, and this site in two different iterations for a few years as well. We have definitely made every effort to comply with the Woodland Station overlay design requirements, and also just celebrate the history and architecture of Woodland Park and the beauty of this site. So what you're getting now, I think, is on the screen as well as the hard copy in front of you. It's a just quick one-page overview of the two-dimensional exterior elevations of the building and three-dimensional renderings, along with some pictures of the actual materials that we're proposing to use. Just as a reminder for those of you that may not know, this is a three concept entertainment building. So we've got a tap house on the ground floor that will have pub food, pour your own beer, that kind of thing. The second floor is a higher end steakhouse, fine dining restaurant. And then the west edge is a event center / banquet hall that will be served by the kitchen in the restaurant. So three concepts. You all know the site very well, I'm sure. The views to the south are very impressive. So we're doing everything we can to capture those. And the facade that faces north, which is Highway 24, we've tried to make a front of the building as well. So really, this is a four-sided building with no back to it, so to speak. So we're hiding the trash enclosure inside the building. We're doing everything we can to make this fit the site, speak to Highway 24, speak to the views to the south, and really be the anchor to the Woodland Station development as we see the potential for the growth of this site, new buildings, attracting new tenants, et cetera. So the images, I think, are relatively self-explanatory, but if we can jump to the other PDF digitally. Just going to run through some inspiration and precedent imagery that we took inspiration from while designing the building. So you can see in this first slide, historic imagery of Woodland Park. That first image at the top speaks very closely to just the layout of our buildings. So that big front porch, the big windows that capture the views, that long horizontal kind of 2-story plus 2+1 story building. We think the scale is very appropriate to our site of this building, and this first image speaks to that. And then just the textures of the materiality of the historic buildings, sorry, I can't see while I'm talking, but the wood siding, the wood frame front porch, that texture of the local materiality. And next slide. So just some more modern buildings in town that kind of speak to the form of what we're proposing as well, kind of taking from the existing vernacular pitched roofs and then the mining infrastructure that's near this region of those steep pitch roofs, different forms coming together to create a whole. So you can see it done in a couple more modern buildings here in town. And then I just put in the hardware store that's really our only neighbor on site that was approved for Woodland Station a few years ago, just as context of who our neighbors are. Next slide. And these images are new buildings that are obviously not in Woodland Park, but kind of speak to the kind of quality that we're trying to hit with this project. The top left image is a brewery in Utah that has a lot of the same forms and materiality that we're proposing. Heavy timber structure, corrugated metal siding. And then the bottom image, it just speaks to the beauty of our site and the kind of the quality of the building that we think makes sense for where we are. So again, big windows, trying to capture those views to the south. Next slide. So materiality, we're looking at corrugated core 10 steel, which gets an orange rusty look to it. We're utilizing stone in a gabion wall that surrounds some of the exterior patios and faces Highway 24. The heavy timber structure of the building will be exposed, so we have large roof overhangs with heavy timber beams, wood soffit, very appropriate to this region. The board form concrete is a way to utilize our structure that we need to laterally support the building and brace the building, but bringing in that wood texture to again speak to the history of the site. And stained siding, very, very common in this area, and we have heavy use of that just again to fit into the region. Next slide. This is the northeast corner of the building. So as you're driving west on Highway 24 and you look towards the site, this is what you'll see. The upper glassy portion of that corner of the building is the outdoor deck for the fine dining area. It'll be a 3-season deck with pivoting glass windows that can protect the deck from weather, radiant heat up there. But really we want that to glow and be kind of a draw into the site, kind of utilizing the building as a draw to Woodland Station. Next slide. This is the southwest corner. So what you're seeing is the plaza that we're trying to create. So as you know, the site slopes to the south. We're proposing to flatten that out essentially and create a public plaza to the south of the building that will eventually have buildings on the south side of it that will essentially have walkout roof decks onto that plaza. Looking forward to the future of this really being an extension of downtown and creating a commercial hub that has public amenity area. And again, capture those views, takes advantage of the slope of the site, et cetera. This is the southwest corner of the building. You're seeing the buildings spilling out onto this public plaza that we're creating. So immediately in front of the main corner of that building is the banquet hall. So that area has large doors that open up onto this public plaza and patio and can spill out and embrace the site. And as you move east in this image, you're just seeing the large overhangs of the building and the outdoor dining area for the tap house. Next slide. And then this is looking due north from the public plaza. So you're just seeing the entirety of the south facade, the large windows that overlook Pikes Peak and the public plaza. And that is the last slide. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
I'll start with just one. As far as you know, are there any special requirements outside of the normal city design guidelines that you're asking this board to consider?
No, this is, in our opinion, in full compliance with the design overlay.
Right. Any other board members? Questions?
Well, I just, the cement tower type on the back, is that an elevator or something, or?
No, it's truly just a tower. It's the primary entrance to the building. And once you're inside of that, you can hit the stair that goes up to the chop house or direct access to the tap room. So it does create the entry vestibule and provide access to the elevator and the stair.
Can I ask the height of that? I mean, is it in compliance with the?
It is. I think I didn't give you dimensions. We're allowed 35 feet and I want to say it's at 32. So it's definitely under, but it's pretty close to the max.
No comments? Looks great.
No.
Looks good.
I like the use of the rusty
Uh,
corrugated sign.
Yeah, we did that for you.
Yeah, so, yeah, so from my perspective, with respect to the design guidelines, if the planning confirms that it's in compliance with city guidance and there's nothing, Woodland Station Overlay District does allow some additional things that aren't necessarily done in the city, but from my understanding, Tava's made great pains to satisfy the actual guidelines without asking us for anything special. So I think for us, it's a matter of just approving the guidelines. But I think one thing we need answered from the attorney is do we need a formal resolution naming the entire board as the committee? And that's the question that's kind of on the table. And I think until we get that answer, we should have that answer by April. And I anticipate that in April, we can vote for approval for these design guidelines unless you need them sooner.
No, I think that's fine.
You know. April's fine. Yeah, so I think we can, is the board okay committing to that we have a vote in April? Anyone have concerns with that?
I just have a comment. I mean, they're proceeding with one project at this point, the Tava House, but I think there's some consistency in the overall development that they're striving for. So some of the things that I know Ryan's done is we've looked at, you know, existing infrastructure. We're matching that infrastructure as far as the way the parking lays out, angles and those type of things. Streetlights, they've endeavored to match the existing streetlights in continue that consistency. And I'm wondering if at this point, if the applicant wants to more formalize this as far as looking at consistency through the plaza development and kind of create a set of architectural guidelines that would then be a document that could continue on to future projects.
Was that a question?
Yeah. And discuss it, but
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that makes sense in your case, because you're obviously going to endeavor to have consistency in development, you know, architectural themes throughout the plaza. And if it makes sense to solidify those now with the board and kind of shortcut future development, if they have an approved set of architectural guidelines.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that on streetscape. I think the streetscape needs to be consistent throughout the entirety. From an architectural design standard, I would probably lean on the existing Woodland Station design guidelines. I think it expects a level of quality that we definitely expect to hit throughout the site. But I struggle with imposing design guidelines on future development because I always struggle with that concept. I think I think they're always well intentioned. I think as you guys are dealing with right now, the enforcement of those is so subjective that it can become problematic. So I think where the current guidelines are is appropriate, and I don't know that I would amend those.
Yeah, I would personally have a hard time wrapping my head around approving some future guide. I mean, I think the current guidelines stand and when the future development starts emerging, then if there's a variance or if there's a need, then we could discuss it at that time, or the future board can discuss it at that time. I think it would be hard to, in my opinion, to anticipate that future need and try to solve it now.
And generally, when we write these, they're driven from an owner perspective or a land developer perspective to protect their investment. And so they have control of them and can recommend them. If you guys don't feel that they're needed, that's it, but generally it's that methodology. And so you write them as vague as you need them to be, but you protect the quality of what you're anticipating to be the development.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the city will be guiding that, and this Tava is gonna set the expectation for the rest of the development. And this building will set the standards.
It will set an expectation. Let's see if other developers that purchase parcels can live up to that. That's it. I mean, just a heads up.
And I'll just add a comment. I like what you did with the first floor in terms of the style. If you look across the street, we have the historic buildings that
Mhm.
all have the vertical holes, you know, kind of out front with the elevated walkway to go from shop to shop. I think you carried that over nicely with the first floor. It's a much more modern building, so you've got all the slanted windows looking at all the different mountain views for the second floor, which is great. But I like what you did with the first floor. It kind of carries the theme from across the street. Just a personal comment.
Yeah, thank you.
I've got a question. Do you have a site plan that goes along with this?
Not with me. Apologies for that, but we do have the that is submitted to the city as part of the preliminary plat that's in review right now.
Okay, because it seems to me if we want to approve this in April, we ought to see a site plan and maybe some landscaping plans, because this shows things and that would avoid questions later on. Wait a minute, you showed us this here and it's not there later sort of problems.
Do you see a problem getting that to us in the next week or so?
No,
We'll
we-
get through final plat.
We
Not
have
at all,
full
yeah.
landscape plans and full
Yeah.
site plans because we've submitted both the preliminary plat and the site plan application, so we can throw those into the package.
Yep.
Yeah, if you would just shoot that to us, we'll add it into the packet for April. So, and it's my intention to get the packet for April out before next Friday. So that'll be a first to get it out weeks ahead of time.
And Perry, I do have a question because I want to make sure I understood. When you said we want to check with our attorney, do we need a resolution? I thought you had said establishing the full DDA as the design
Yes,
committee.
yeah.
Because that your point is taking it to the next step of we are then voting to approve the design. Are we
Yeah,
gonna do
so-
that at the same time?
Yeah, I think so. I think, and here's the only reason that occurred to me, because in preparation for your presentation, I went through all the past documents. And it wasn't clear to me. It appeared that there was an initial resolution by former DDA and Mayor Crane basically establishing a two-person design review committee. And so I just want to make sure that from a legal perspective, that we may need to do approve a formal resolution first, establishing the entire board, and then consider the approval of the Tava design. So I just want to make sure, you know, the records are, again, tough to parse, and we've been trying this whole time to be very careful that we're doing things properly.
Right.
So that just occurred when I was reviewing all the materials in the last couple of days. So.
Yeah, I just wanted to capture what we were trying to do.
Yeah, so on the agenda, if it's required, that would be the first issue to address first, but prior to the approval of the application.
Very good.
Yeah.
And I did then capture yours, getting a full site plan.
Does that make sense to everyone? Yeah. Great. Okay, anything else Tava would like to communicate?
No, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Are you doing minutes, Rusty, for this month?
Well, I'm assuming since I did them for the last time, I'm taking much better notes, let's put it this way.
Thank you.
So my.
I'll send you
task-
my notes.
My task this past week was rather difficult.
All right. Okay, so the next topic is, and I think we kind of merged the design guideline discussion with TAVA, so we can move on to the Netco grant proposal. Couple of things I want to communicate, prior to bringing up Chief Lambert. One, I apologize, Tony Perry, not DDA Chair Perry, getting ahead of myself in terms of thinking about and contemplating a fundraising effort to a community initiative, a citizen initiative to raise funds for a ladder truck. In discussions with the Netco board members, they really need to think about that because they're very sensitive to the concept of asking for any monies, additional monies from the citizens. And I think I'll let them speak for themselves, but my understanding is that they get tax monies from the citizens already, and they're reticent to, even if it's a citizen-led initiative, to have a fundraising effort until they really think through that, because it could impact some of their other fundraising initiatives. And so we want to be sensitive to that. So for the purposes of Ms. Hill, Tony Perry apologizes for getting ahead of himself and overly irrationally exuberant. And so we will back off of that until we better understand what Netco's needs really are. The other thing I want to make clear, because although Netco used to come to every DDA meeting for years, they haven't been recently. And so this board over the last year and a half or two has been really talking about Netco and the impact of the DDA on the fire district and wanting to do something about that. And even this concept of a grant, they kind of walked into it last month. And also even the concept that I personally have been advocating for up to $150,000 grant from this board. Of course, obviously open for discussion, open for approval from this board, of course. So anyway, with that being said, Chief Lambert was not in town at the last meeting, so I wanted him to give him the opportunity to come forward and maybe make a statement and then answer any questions directly to the chief. I think last month, Chair Gomes, Director Paul, and the Assistant Fire Chief did an excellent job of presenting a lot of information, but I think there's nothing like hearing it from the chief. So, Mr. Tyler Lambert.
Well, good morning, DDA board. I appreciate having us here. I really don't have much else to say from what our chairman and director Paul said with our deputy chief from last month, but here to answer any questions or whatever else you would like from me.
Yeah, I think I will turn your attention to a document that Chief Lambert provided us on page 15. And basically, these are the funds that the DDA got from the district's pool of tax monies. And so, you know, to put it in perspective, through 2023, 2010 to 2023, the DDA board effectively took away 1.155 million, 1.56 million to round dollars away from Netco, which obviously impacted their operations just like the other districts. It's projected in 2024 that we will get 167,354.90 from those tax funds. And so that's really what we're talking about. We know that we have the authority to provide a grant. And, you know, the questions of the mechanism of if we do a grant, where do the funds flow to? You know, personally, I would leave that to a discussion between Netco and the city in terms of what makes sense, because ultimately the city cuts the check. Netco may want to keep the funds in reserve, or they may want it to be a contingent liability. I'm not sure on the city side. And again, I don't want to jump over any of Netco's processes or affect your potential grant opportunities. So I think that needs to be informed from Netco and the city. So I would open the floor, and I would even be so bold as to make a motion to approve $150,000 grant to Netco from the DDA reserve funds, with the provision that the city and Netco determine the best mechanism for holding those funds, storing those funds, and having and protecting those funds and accounting for those funds.
Is that an official motion?
That is an official
I
motion.
second it.
Mr. Cabrera is the second, Mr. Perry is the first. Now discussion. And remember, the discussion can be anything, including not agreeing with the amount.
I do, this is Secretary Neal. I do agree that we take the lead from the city and Netco of the options of how the grant should be constructed. If you go back into the minutes, there was a lot of discussion last DDA meeting, because as I was listening to the conversation, trying to follow everything to capture it, there were very good reasons both ways. So in thinking through what our attorney did say, we could do either one, but he did point out there were benefits for each way, but did kind of recommend that it be how these two organizations handle it, and then we follow in. So I just want to publicly say I agree with the motion to let the city and the Netco have the lead.
No other conversation, no other discussion?
Al Bourne might comment that to do the grant is good. It's a one-time event that we give as large a grant as we can, but still be fiscally responsible to the obligations of the DDA. So for us to stretch, and because this is a very important item, you know, for our community, to stretch as far as we can, that's most appropriate. Whether 150 is a maximum stretch for us only depends upon the fiscal responsibility as we interpret our treasurer's reports. So, yes.
That's a very good point, Mr. Bourne. It may not be the stretch, but from a conservative perspective, from a fiscally responsibility perspective, not really sure whether the DDA will exist past 2033 or 2032. We certainly have the funds. This is comfortable for us. It's not going to impact our operations. It's not going to harm the DDA's ability to meet our responsibilities, especially for the bonds. But I think and I do want to reiterate that and make it clear that it is a one-time grant from this board, but that doesn't mean that next year that the future board may also consider it at that time. That is always a possibility, because I do strongly believe that this is a worthwhile endeavor. So, any other comments?
Well, just kind of connecting to Jerry, what you had brought up when we were talking about the fund last time, and you did mention the TIF, how you had connected it. Do you feel comfortable with the 150? Because it still leaves us funds sufficient that we can continue our role of granting appropriate TIFs when people come forward. I just want to make sure all members' concerns are discussed.
Well, yeah, no, and I appreciate that. I'm just My concern is our obligation to pay back our loans. And are we on the right track there? I mean, can we really afford to do that? It's a very important part of what we're doing is paying back city and Vectra.
Yeah, so as you know, we paid the city loan off last year and we do still have two bonds with Vectra. I think if you've been studying the financials, the analysis, clearly we have the ability to do this.
If you go back to the financials that we received from the city a couple months ago, this is a conservative amount of money that keeps us afloat to maintain our current responsibilities.
Yeah, I'm not really questioning the amount or anything. Rusty's asked.
No,
It's a
it's fair,
relevant question.
fair
absolutely.
question. It is a conservative amount and if, I don't know if you saw those financials. It does put us it is a conservative amount. It does keep us safe. And again, like Chair Perry said, we can approach this again next year.
Any other questions?
No.
Yes, Mr. Wolf.
One can certainly look at that. It will take a number of years before we'll be able to get that ladder truck here to get it built and delivered. So there are additional fiscal years looking forward that we may be able to help also further.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table with a second. We've had discussion. Hearing no further discussion, I will call for a voice vote.
Born, yes.
Cabrera, yes.
Good, yes.
Perry, yes.
Mijares, yes.
Neil, yes.
Weatherford, yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
And for NECO, I think we appreciate that. And I think we need to see the parameters, maybe sit down with Aaron and figure that out as far as exactly how it's going to be done before our board would accept that. And we'll have a board meeting coming up in this month. So you're welcome to attend that and have the discussion with our board. And I don't know, Dave, you want to say anything else with it?
Yeah, so just to be clear, the motion gave Netco and the city complete autonomy in figuring out how to transfer funds if necessary. And frankly, again, we're offering this up. If your board determines that it's not in your best interest, then we certainly will keep the funds. So whatever you determine is best for Netco is fine with us.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right. We'll move to the next item, which is the COG, and I just have a couple of things that I may ask Mr. Vassalotti to comment if he feels comfortable. I believe this Thursday, the council will vote to offer a temporary location to UPHS for the relocation of the COG. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Recently, the UPHS board met and voted unanimously to keep the COG where it's currently at. And I'll let Mr. Vassalotti maybe add more color to that. I did research, because I was asked from a party who those board members were. It is on their website of UPassHistoricalSociety.org. Donna Finical, President, Charlie Chambers, Vice President, Trevor Phipps, Vice President, Mike Lockwood, Treasurer, Susie Graff and Jane Ross, Secretaries, Jean Rodek, Board Member, Pat Hislop, Board Member, Julie Snyder, Board Member, Renee Rocliffe, Board Member, and Mary Jo Larson, Board Member. So I do believe that even though they voted unanimously to keep it at the current site, they did make an additional statement. Am I correct on that?
They did. They said that they would support a move to the Centennial Trailhead if it is determined that it has to be moved, which I think there has been a determination that it has to be moved. So I think that they are open to it. It's just that's where we're at right now.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess commentary from my chair, if you haven't, again, been to UPHS, they're great amenities for this community, and I encourage citizens to go through the museum. They work really hard at it. They work up with very few funds. And so it sounds like this was a vote of what they would prefer, but they're being reasonable that if it has to be moved, it has to be moved, and they are supportive of the Centennial Trailhead. So I think that's an important distinction. Okay, thank you, sir. Okay. Is there any public comment regarding new business? Okay. I put none, but now I can say hearing none, we'll move on. So the board chair report. Having listened to the January minutes about 20 times in the last week to try to get minutes done, I do want to circle back to something Mr. Good brought up in January, and that is we did get our third core request from the Carter family, and we did respond to them. We do have those files and records. What we did with the first two requests is we had a space on the DDA city site to place those, and we do not have access to that right now for multiple reasons that we're trying to work out. And so we're still working with the city to figure out the best place to store those, because it's a combination of the Civics Plus system plus storage expense plus some other things. Being an ex-IT person, I have some ideas to maybe do that elegantly for the DDA, for the city, and for the citizens, but we're still working on that.
Can I make a brief comment on that? So the state has passed new regulations on ADA compliance. So the city is going through a very robust process right now of looking at our entire website. Unfortunately, most PDF documents are not ADA compliant. And so we are looking at how we can comply with the state's requirement. Many cities all across the state are looking at this. So hopefully we'll have a update in the next couple of months, but this is a pretty big issue we're dealing with.
Yeah.
In terms of being able to put any new PDFs on the website. So
Yeah, so that's a little bit more technical, and it is interesting challenge from an IT perspective. Websites are fairly easy in today's world, but now getting down to the file level is definitely more complicated. Anyway, so thank you for that additional information. Also, I want to point out that Ms. Leclerc sent each of us a invite to the Bravers Angels work session prior to the March 21st council meeting. And it looks like an interesting topic in terms of kind of as citizen board members, how do we talk to our constituents or people that we're supporting or representing? So I think it is a worthwhile thing to attend if you're available. I will be floating to Lisbon, so I will not be here. But I do encourage participation if you can make it. And then finally, from me, I would like to encourage everyone on the board, in the audience and at home, if there's people out there, this Friday at 1 o'clock at Memorial Park, local historian Steve Plute, which most of us know, will lead the dedication of the Ladies of Woodland Park Sunshine Club. It is actual International Women's Day Friday, and it's actually March is Women's Month. Mr. Plute put together a historical overview of this club that existed for 50 years in our community. And they were a remarkable group of women. They actually raised funds and bought the land, and gave it to the city, which is now known as Memorial Park. During World War II, they made blankets. For 50 years, they were very active. And as far as I could tell, for any one group in the city of Woodland Park, from a service perspective, they were far and heads above everyone else in terms of their efficacy and how much they accomplished. It was pretty amazing. And through all those decades, you can imagine the different challenges throughout the years. And I would encourage you to attend to support. He designed a very nice plaque that will go on the southeast corner entrance to Memorial Park. And I also encourage you to look at his historical write-up of all the cool things they did. So if you can make it, that would be awesome. And that ends the chair report, treasurer's report.
Yep, we have two invoices, totaling 26,5450. Or actually, that's the first one. The first one's gonna be from October, which we missed because us and the city, because we missed November and December's meetings, not having them. So that's for $627.50. And these are for legal fees. And then the second is for February 6th in the amount of $2,027. You could see these starting on page 16 will be both the totals, 17 and 18 for the 627, page 19 and 20 for the 2027. That's all we got.
Okay, any board members wish to provide a report on anything? Councilman Neal?
I have no report, but as soon as we are finished, I'll propose a motion.
Okay. City attorney is not with us today, so we can pass that. And I anticipate your motion to approve the reports.
I would like to make a motion to approve the reports as presented.
Bourne seconds.
First by Mr. Neal, second by Mr. Bourne. Any discussion? Hearing none, we will call for the roll call.
Bourne, yes.
Cabrera, yes.
Good, yes.
Perry, yes.
Mijares, yes.
Neil, yes.
Yes.
Okay. I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned at 8:32 a.m. Thank you, everyone.